Hello and welcome to Osquery Office Hours, Tuesday, July 30th. And we are following the usual agenda here. So, starting with announcements and highlights, which seems to be empty, and then questions, issues, PRs that people want to discuss. We've got a small group today, but anyone have something that you want to bring up? All right. Then on to the agenda, and I've added an agenda item for the 513 release. So I attempted to get a code signing certificate issued for Osquery. It was the identity validation was rejected over the weekend, sadly. I this morning I've been trying to figure out if I can understand why. I'm guessing it's because I couldn't, but I'm guessing it's because the documents that we have show the LF project LLC as sort of the legal entity and not OS Query. Because of that, I'm curious to try submitting a new identity validation request using LF Projects LLC. Um, Seems worth a try. It doesn't seem like the ideal name to use for signing, but we have never used an ideal name because it was under Nick's name for a long time. So um, I think that taking what we can get would make sense. But I don't know if that's going to work either. And so that kind of brings us back to the what to do in the meantime while we try to get this figured out. And so I did get approval to use Fleet Code signing cert, which is that new style one with an HSM. However, the problem I'm running into there is that the Osquery code sign repo. Okay, so to my understanding, there's multiple steps where the code sign needs to take place. First, the binary needs to be signed, and then an MSI needs to be generated, and then the MSI needs to be signed. The way that works, to my understanding, is limited, but I looked into the repo, is that some stuff is checked out from the Osquery code sign repo, and this is the part I didn't investigate yet and probably should. But some resources are checked out from the Osquery code sign repo. Maybe it's just like a script or a configuration or something, and then that is used to generate the MSI after the executable is signed. And the executable is just coming from the regular Osquery repo, not the code sign repo. So go ahead, Stefano.
Well, I see Sharon.
Yeah, I think you're, also hinting at the same thing. Like, at least on the Mac OS, the way it works is like there's a, releaser where we put like a version or a tag, and then it gets the artifacts from the Osquery repo with the packaging kind of scripts in the Osquery packaging repo. And then it gets uploaded to the GitHub releases thing, and the code sign then downloads it and signs it. I think it's similar for Windows as well. So it's been a while since I've done this, but.
And then once that's done, it pushes it back up to the release in the Osquery/Osquery repo.
Yep.
So that'll make sense and works well if the secrets are in the Osquery org. So now the problem I'm running into is that I think what needs to happen is either some resources from that private repo need to be copied out into public into the public in some way, so that we can use whatever those resources are in the Fleet repo where I actually have the secret and the code signing cert, or the code signing cert, and it's not really actually the cert, it's actually like API keys and stuff to use the cert needs to get copied into the Osquery code sign repo. And so the sort of the issue that I'm having here is either like I need to get approval on the Fleet side to copy our secrets into the Osquery repo, or maybe it's actually not a big deal to check out whatever it is from the Osquery repo into the public somewhere, because maybe it's just like a config for generating the MSI or something. And so maybe I could kind of manually copy that, and then I could manually upload to the releases page on Osquery, so we wouldn't have to be like giving permissions for the Osquery code sign repo into Fleet. Or maybe we're just okay with giving some permissions to Fleet in order to do that. But I'm kind of in this like stuck in the middle spot right now in terms of trying to figure out what to do next. I wonder if you guys have thoughts.
I mean, from my side, I would say that so I'm not sure I fully follow what were the two cases, but I'm wondering, so you do not have any way to provide like a different key, not really the secrets, that so that Osquery code sign can ask to your setup to sign a certain package from remotely, basically. I know that it sounds.
I do believe that is how it works. Like if
Okay.
you have the right credentials, you can remotely ask for something to be signed. And so the options are, and I asked internally, like, can we get approval to put essentially those API keys into the Osquery code sign repo? I'm waiting to hear about that. That would be an easy-ish solution. I mean, it's not easy because you don't literally just replace the sign tool command. You have to do some more stuff because now the signing is happening like partly remotely. And Seth.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of this. You're talking about Windows code signing. Wonderful. Yes. What key did you want to put where?
So our initial attempt at identity validation was denied.
Yeah, we can have more attempts. It's great.
Yes, but the question is, in the meantime, since I did get approval to use Fleet's identity or Fleet's cert to sign this release, what's the best way to do it? And I'm in a little bit of this like stuck in the middle problem where the Osquery code sign repo is a private repo that has some secrets configured.
Okay, so I'll tell you. The Osquery, the code signing repo is private mostly so that we don't get random PRs against it that we have to think about. If you have a trusted member of Fleet, you can add them. Maybe we should tell people, but like it's not private so that we would never add humans. It's just private because like we should consider that. And I don't actually want random people sending us PRs that we have to think about whether it exfiltrates our key material.
Okay.
So that's part. The other half is for the secrets that are there, they're actually GitHub secrets that are explicitly shared into that repository. So they need a GitHub admin to add. So you could probably just replace the existing GitHub secrets, which are for Nick's expired key. And if it's actually a cert and a key, it will probably just work. If not,
it's not a cert and a key because it's like the HSM backed one and uses the service. So that's actually that's what I was saying is what I didn't realize was I was thinking that I would just be able to create a workflow within the Fleet repo where the secrets are already configured. Yeah, JD, the Azure thing is what I tried to do the identity validation with. So the issue is we would have to configure Fleet's essentially API keys for that signing service into the Osquery code sign repo, which I'm asking for approval for because it's probably the easiest path. But don't really want to put those credentials into the Osquery code signing repo.
No. What you should do is you should put them into the there are two answers. The slightly less correct way, and this would have been correct 5 years ago, is to put them into the organization secrets and share them in. So that's what happens through all those code flows today, and you'll see it there.
Yeah.
So that's a viable path. Feel free to do that. The more advanced answer is very new, and all of the GitHub runners have complicated OAuth or OIDC things that are shared out to some services. So, for example, I just granted our PyPy account grants access to the GitHub runners for our organization to update PyPy, and you can do things like, say, AWS credit, like there's an IAM account that corresponds to all of them. I don't know if that's equally true in Azure. So you might be able to find an OIDC route, but I don't know if OIDC support. I don't know if Azure and GitHub Actions have that OIDC link yet. But if not, just stick an API key in the organizational secrets. And if you can't,
yeah, I mean so that's the thing. Which actually, while you were speaking there, I just got provisionally permission to do that. But my concern was I wasn't sure I was going to be able to put Fleet's API key into the Osquery secrets. It sounds like I probably will be able to do that. I need to answer some information about who has access to those secrets and that kind of thing. But it sounds like that probably will work.
So the secrets are one way. You can never read them once they're written.
That's not really true.
Well, you can't read them through the GitHub admin UI. You have to create a workflow that echoes them to the screen.
Right. But it tries to redact them if you echo them. But there are ways.
There are ways. But I want to say the GitHub UI won't show it to you.
Yes, agreed.
So you're looking at who has permission to change what it's shared out to, and then who has permission to create things in there. And
I think that's going to be limited enough that I think the answer is going to satisfy.
Okay.
So I think that we're good there. I think that what we'll be able to do is use the Fleet secrets there. It was already fully agreed that we can use the Fleet secret for signing, but it just wasn't realized that was going to mean that the API keys were going to have to be pushed out of the Fleet repos and into the Osquery repos. But it sounds like this should work, and yes, they would go into GitHub secrets. So I should have a final answer on that tomorrow, it sounds like.
Do you have a sense of, so I wasn't paying much attention to the Azure identity validation stuff. Like how easy is that to revisit?
It's very easy to submit another request. I couldn't find any details about why the request was rejected, but my suspicion is that we should try verifying an identity as LF Projects LLC, which is what the like certificate of incorporation that we have is. But yeah, they didn't give any details. I'm thinking I will try another request using that identity, and then I'll also simultaneously they say, this is ridiculous. They say don't go to Azure support for identity verification issues. Go to Stack Overflow or Microsoft Q&A. So I might try those places as well, which seems just absolutely ridiculous, but We'll see.
Thank you for doing it all, Zach.
Yeah, well,
Holler if you
I'll
need.
just keep letting folks know what happens.
Did you need a phone number? Did you figure out how to make that go?
That I think Nick gave me some info, and I think that we are. I think that we're good on phone and email. I think the main issue is just what documents will they accept.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again. People have other agenda items? I feel like we probably don't want to make a release until we can actually get 513 out.
Does no one else have an agenda item? If not, I'll share like a quick blurb about macOS Sequoia and how it can affect us.
Love to
So
hear it.
there is a new privacy preferences thingy about local network access. This was a part of iOS and iPadOS, and now it's also part of macOS. So every time we make an outbound TCP connection, it shows a pop-up like, hey, Osquery wants to, find devices on your network. Do you want to allow or deny it? And there's a huge thread on some Apple forum that I'm reading through, and the only way to kind of suppress it, like without user interaction, is with a PPPC profile, like we do with full disk access and the endpoint security stuff. So, and it doesn't look like Apple is relaxing any, you know, permissions. So we'll probably just have to like make users aware or document it. There is a new entitlement about Bonjour or multicast DNS, but it doesn't apply to us.
We currently in the repo or in the doc somewhere have an example like PPPC profile, right? So presumably that can be updated with the new key.
I think so. I haven't found what the new key is though. So and it's
okay,
probably still part of the beta NDA, what have you. But I'm sure we'll find it soon enough.
Okay.
Is there a route for entitlements here, or is this something that admins are going to have to set at a policy level?
I know there's an entitlement meant for iDevices, I'm trying to figure out if that also applies to macOS. I haven't found any contact or correct answer. But I already had a couple of people ping me like, "Hey, do you know anything about this?" People who are playing with macOS Beta and installing Osquery on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Osquery will make an outbound, TCP connection. There's way around it.
Where do we make outbound TCP connections? Curl table, metadata tables, like the cloud metadata tables?
Yeah, the EC2 ones, the curl ones, maybe even like config refresh. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
Is that
any
yeah
communication.
any
like
communication
Osquery.
with backend?
Yeah, log
That's true, the TLS endpoints.
Yeah, that's going to be, and under most deployments, that's probably going to be pretty immediate.
Also, like Quinn, the helpful Apple
Eskimo,
person,
Eskimo one.
yeah, Eskimo one. He has this FAQ, and he's updated it for macOS as well. I've bookmarked it, but yeah. And yeah, I've seen this pop up on Sequoia VMs, not on whatever Sonoma. So I'm sure users will run into this as well.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I think it's going to be unpleasant, especially for, fleet customers,
Non-MDM
allied
folks,
customers.
or
So some of that, it sounds like, can maybe be mitigated with MDM policy, but
I'm investigating if there's an entitlement route. We can just
Yeah.
request an entitlement and apply it with our other entitlements. If that silences it, it's on my list to do this week. And Apple also usually, when they introduce new stuff, has like an exceptions list. Like, I'm seeing if we can get ourselves on the exceptions list if there is one.
that'd be
That would be
fancy.
cool. Yeah.
I know in my testing that even upgrading, this dialog still pops up.
Yeah, it will, unless we explicitly allow it via MDM key with the PPPC profile. It will pop up.
Does the end user have a always accept, or do they have to accept every time, or how does that work?
I think ideally, like one is always accept, but any program can go and revoke the permission if they reset their TCCDB. Then
Yeah. Thank you for looking into it. And anyone want to look at PRs? Or, would folks just like 30 minutes back?
I'm fine either way.
How deep are the PRs today?
I'm sorry, what, JD?
No, this was my.
I think it was
Mike,
me.
it's a
I
bit
asked,
slow.
like, how far behind are we on PRs?
I'm about to approve one of Stefano's.
I mean, there are definitely some
We
old
have
ones.
33. Most of them are several months old. Many, many months old. I think the number of recent ones is pretty small. I think we're getting better at staying on top of recent PRs. But I don't know. People want to just take 30 minutes back. I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, just a quick update that multicast entitlement is currently only for iOS and Vision OS. Or at least it hasn't shown up in the new Xcode.
Yeah, we don't use multicast anywhere though.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. But if it silences it,
I don't pretend to understand Apple permissions.
So any process making an outbound connection would produce this prompt, or just apps that specifically open a socket in a way that would, I don't know, enable local network?
it's unclear. The FAQ is any outbound TCP connection would enable this prompt, because there's no way to kind of distinguish, whether
Yeah.
the connection
So
is like at a remote or within your LAN.
That is pretty intense. That is basically like any application on macOS.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
like a
if
little.
you do install the beta, you'll get all these pop-ups. Like, install Slack, you'll get a pop-up. Install Discord, you'll get a pop-up. Install Spotify,
Okay.
you'll get a pop-up.
Anything.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like they Sherlocked Little Snitch, and it's
Yeah.
popping up.
Hmm.
I mean, even Little Snitch doesn't install in alert mode.
Yeah, well, with Little Snitch, you can at least acknowledge it and tell it to ignore it. I don't know that there's a full way to do that right now in Sonoma or in Sequoia.
Yeah. I just meant that if you install Little Snitch, the default is monitor mode, and I don't think that it actually blocks and alerts you unless you turn that on. I mean, most people do. That's the reason they install it.
Well, I'll see if I can get some Collide folks onto Sequoia, and we'll see what we get. But sounds like you probably know the most of anything, Charvel. So I think if that's what we got, then we should cut out a little early. Thank you all for everything. And Zach, especially thank you for trying to get code certs working. So then we can have a release again.
Yep, I'll keep letting folks know what's happening with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
Bye.